towards that Xin Zhao. They want to try and get that early pressure. They want to get that early priority, and this is where the draft gets a little bit funky, and this is why, again, like we mentioned, we cannot wait to see these guys in a best of 5 when they have to continually change their drafts.
Yeah, I do understand why you go towards the Xin, especially as a takeaway, because Beishang hasn't been someone who's really played the Lee Sin. When WE have gone towards it, it's been mostly for top, but actually that's something we missed, Viego being left open. I'm a little bit surprised to see that RNG didn't just grab that one. Xiaohu has been a standout whenever he gets his hands up on the Viego, completely taking over games, but we're going to see that go over to the side of WE. Has been a triple flex, but WE going to stick to this first rotation Ryze on red side. Now we're looking at RNG, the Lee Sin still being something that's open potentially if they wanted to put that in a soul lane role. Gwen is there. You do have an AD jungler, so can always put Gwen up in the top lane. I feel like we've seen Gwen against Viego a lot recently, where we've seen the Gwen able to win out. Ooh, and there we go. We get a Malzahar coming out from Cryin.
I love this. It's basically saying, cool, you're picking the Ryze to have push priority. I'm malzahar. I guarantee push priority now in the mid lane and can roam around. Doesn't have the same mobility as something like a Gala or Twisted Fate, but definitely has the same kind of impact once he arrives in those lanes.
He is just able to do so much. This is an old school matchup going back years. But to continue on with draft, we actually do have the Gwen coming out, but it's for the side of WE. Beishang is going to be the one manning that Viego in the jungle role. So 3 very distinct carries, a lot of pick potential coming out on sides from these 3 champions, to where RNG, they do still have pick potential, but I'd say thus far it is more gravitated towards a 5v5 as compared to WE's composition. And WE already starting to take away some of these top laners that are able to fight into the Gwen. The Jace being really the only big one that stands out to me. We hit on the Kennen earlier in the day, but we haven't seen Xiaohu pull out something like the Kennen just yet.
Has it in his wheelhouse, has definitely played it a good bit in his career so far in the top side. As we'll see there what W want to go for. The Lucian still there. The Renekton was something I was just about to mention as well. So still a lot of things that RNG can go for. And the thing is as well is that you're not getting a counter pick anymore for WE. You decided to go into it, so it's going to be RNG getting full knowledge of where they want to pick everything. So they pick the Malzahar into the Ryze. They're going to have a counter pick now into the Gwen. And not only that, but they've also gotten a good few bans into those AD carries, putting Elk on the back foot, probably back up to something passive like the Ezreal if he ends up going towards it.
To be fair, is that really putting Elk on the back foot when I feel like Elk would actively choose to be on this champion no matter what in any matchup anyway? Looks like WE actually proving me wrong and going straight towards the Braum to start things off. For RNG, they already do have a decent amount of engage coming out from the 3 picks that they have so far, so maybe wanting to try to take away something like the Braum, but so far RNG have more range coming in, right? So I feel like WE were the ones who needed more engage tools coming out. We've already seen how the Realm Warp can be utilized, so there is always that, but not as consistent as actually having something like a Leona or a Nautilus down there in the bottom lane. RNG now going to go with the Rakan, getting a bit of a free lane up against the Braum, not able to lock you down. You just have so much mobility and are easily able to get away. As now I'm interested to see where Xiaohu does go with this top lane counter pick. The Akali would be interesting. This was something that we have seen Xiaohu play a little bit already. 2 games on the champion. I think he has showed both good games in both of them, despite it going 1-1.
Yeah, and it's going to be locked and loaded, so we'll see now what the AD carry is for the side of WE. You're not really getting any kind of big counter here. The Kai'Sa, the Ezreal, generally the 2 picks we do see now. Maybe even the Aphelios if he's really feeling it, but the Jhin would also work out in that regard as well. So got a lot of options here for the side of Team WE, as the Akali locked and loaded there for Xiaohu in that top side. And this is a very, very different draft now from RNG coming out into Game 3.
RNG bringing out the Malzahar in mid. They have pick potential there. They don't have too much like frontline, but they do have a lot of ways of starting a fight and getting on 2 members of WE, holding them in place, getting their damage down. For WE, they have a bit of the opposite, where they do have a decent front line coming out in both the Gwen and the Braum, but they don't have the engage, they don't have the amount of CC tools to start off fights like RNG. I still like WE's comp, just from the fact that you do have strong picks like Viego and Gwen coming out. Both of these picks do feel like game changers, that if they get the right setup with their ultimates, these champions can just absolutely take over a game. So we're going to see different things coming in this side around. I really want to pay attention to that mid lane matchup, see what RNG are able to do with that prio, and then what kills and gank opportunities Malzahar's level 6 sets up for Wei in the jungle.
Absolutely, it is the Gwen in the jungle as well. So Beishang, we mentioned it at the top of the series today, that Beishang has been pretty much the only jungler in the LPL that has used it as a proper triple flex between mid, top, and jungle. He is definitely a very, very comfortable man on that particular pick, and that means we're going to have Viego versus Akali in that top side. A lot of big ultimates there along both sides. The ones I'm looking at the most, like you mentioned, the Malzahar one, but also just to see how they're able to utilize this this Varus pick again. Do they look to try and just prioritize that bot side and let the Akali just scale up into the top end? We'll have to wait and see.
Akali isn't a champion who requires too much attention, right? She's very mobile, very easy to dodge out on ganks, very safe, and you are just fine playing the scaling game. You don't even have that much burst early on. They will have the setup there if they do want to look for ganks top, but with the fact that they should have prio in both mid and bot, that's where I would expect and want to see RNG play around.
We'll have to wait and see. Jumping on the rift for the third or fifth final time today. Third game in this best of three. Winner will bring themselves closer to that top 4 finish. Loser gets dragged back into the medley. That is the LPL playoffs at the moment. So many teams. There's only 2 series separating 9th and 1st. Excuse me. I thought it was 10, but actually no, Suning are on 8. So it's so close. Every win feels amazing. Every loss hurts that little bit more. And game difference could be the decider as we go into the final few games, final few days of the LPL. We're only 5 more days left, Lyric. 5! After this, we're only 5 more days of regular split.
I know, it is absolutely crazy. You already hit on it. All 10 of our teams locked in after our first series today, with Top Esports picking that one up. RNG and WE fighting here for seeding. Both of them would love to be able to solidify a top 4 finish. Coming out onto the Rift, we do see the runes, unsealed spellbook for the Malzahar. I think it was LS, the one who would take Futures Market and was a proponent for that on Malzahar and being able to get an early lost chapter. But we don't see Cryin going with that build. I do think WE's draft to me does look slightly better. What is Xiaohu doing?
Xiaohu's just missing experience. He doesn't gain experience from over there, so he's actually just missing out.
To be fair, right, Breathe was zoning him off. He, looking for brush control early on, Breathe realizing what he's going for, zones him out. Does have to take the Shroud. Now Breathe is going to keep doing this. Going to stack a wave on Xiaohu, be able to out-trade him in this lane. Just, I mean, Viego's such an oppressive laner against melee champions, something that was harped on a lot early on. And we do see junglers going for opposite paths. For RNG, when you do have this bottom lane matchup of Rakan and Varus, I think it does make a lot of sense. And for the side of WE, we're just going to see them continuously play around Breathe. You have Ezreal, Braum in the bottom side. They shouldn't be under any real threat. And I don't know if I expect too much action to really happen in the first levels pre-6. I feel like we're probably waiting for 6 for a lot of these engage ultimates to come online before we start seeing ganks able to come out. RNG do have a bit more opportunity because they do have Xin Zhao, who doesn't need as much setup as something like a Gwen, who needs you to lock someone down to be able to follow up on a kill. But still, I think a lot of the name of the game is maybe waiting towards like an invade for blue buffs respawns, looking towards when Rift Herald spawns and setting up fights that way. And WE, they have a front line. They do have a lot of range damage, and they have ways to take that. So keeping my eyes on WE as the ones that I'm slightly feeling a bit more after draft. But for RNG, they brought creativity, and we love creativity here in the LPL, Penguin.
We do indeed. We can see their way mixing his Krugs, so he's going to be about a camp behind. Once he gets the full reset coming on, he will be spotted now on this ward in the bot side, so they know exactly where the Xin Zhao is. Not going to have any early impact just yet. We did see a massive wave crashing in there in favor of Breathe. Xiaohu trying to take up as much as he possibly can, and that's what we expect to see. The Akali going to have a lot of difficulty going into the first few levels, only when they start to get a couple of cooldowns, a bit of maybe an item or two behind them, that they're able to really start to go toe-to-toe in this lane. Obviously waiting for that big old perfect execution, as we do see now on the bot side. Good pressure here from the bot lane of RNG, really putting down the harm and the punishment here onto this Ezreal Braum lane, because it's not really the hardest one to push in. They don't really have great wave clear.
Don't have great wave clear. They have, like, alright trading potential coming out, but still it's all skill shot reliant, and you're also up against a Rakan, who does have range advantage on Braum with that Q able to consistently come out, as Ming goes for the knockup, but feels like it will just be a bit of trading coming out from both sides. Honestly, the big thing we're looking at, in my mind, is Beishang full clearing back to topside, looking for an invade around that topside jungle. And if Breathe can force any heavy trades, you can potentially try to set up a dive, which can be a bit annoying against Akali because of the Shroud. But even just seeing what vision you could set up to be able to force these plays, is we can see it does look like Breathe's trying to find those trades.
Cryin, though, very nicely done, being able to roam up into the jungle, get himself a ward down in a river. He's got himself that spell shield now. It's going to be popped, and then Shank's trying to get himself back into his fountain to regen his mana. That's pretty much the stock standard move here as the Ryze. You try and just push and keep going back, and push and keep going back, as we do see Ming almost getting himself caught up with the concussive blows, but very difficult really to make any of this stick onto someone so slippery like a Rakan.
It will be impossible, but keep your eye on the mini-map. Beishang right now is around Xiaohu's turret, so they are going to go for the play that we projected, but no minion wave.
Yep. No minion wave means no purchase. That means they're going to lose themselves Dragon. First Dragon of the game will go over very, very early to RNG. And I don't think again, Xiaohu's going to TP back to lane. He's got himself his Seeker's Arm Guard now, so he's going to be stacking up a nice little bit of armor. Nothing you can really do there. Beishang actually went with the exhaust, and just noticed there onto Gwen. So not going with Ignite or with Ghost, going towards more of a utility setup to maybe keep people surviving rather than actually killing them. As we see Wei now in this bot side pushing over. Thought about going back, but now with everyone coming back in, Elk and Missing did not reset. They have all summoners available to them, and that's the Unbreakable down. So a big cooldown. Wave, though, not quite in the position where Wei feels like he can make it work.
The big thing was what we're seeing now. With Shanks hovering over towards mid, they did have question mark pings coming out. Is Shanks still? He's going to be hovering around, but not going to be able to do anything. So with the threat of Shanks looming down towards that bot lane, RNG completely go away from the dive. You did hit on the exhaust. It feels like Beishang taking that one up to deal with Xiaohu in team fights, making sure he doesn't have that same assassination potential onto backline threats. For WE, I mean, at least you have a very mobile AD carry. You have two champions that I think are quite hard to assassinate in Viego and Gwen, in terms of, like, Viego does get some health, some, like, sustain in his build, so isn't just one-shottable, and then Gwen, we already know her W, making her very hard to assassinate as well. So I feel like WE's have some champions that are pretty decent up against the Akali. Xiaohu's power spike not going to be the exact same anyway, with the fact that he does have to go with that Seekers first. And despite the fact that Xiaohu is falling so far behind in terms of CS top, RNG are the ones who are getting plates and starting to break down structures with their strong side of the map.
Yeah, bot lane, 400 gold lead already for Gala. 200 or 400 even as well into the bot lane supports as well. So you're kind of in a very, very good position. 3 plates by themselves already for RNG on this bot side. Very, very nicely done. Shanks has got himself a blue buff, so should be able to sustain into this lane, but needs to be a little bit careful because you get caught out, flash forward, they jump in. There's nowhere for him to be able to go. He will, however, get himself flashed out. The Ignite not enough to take him down. Excuse me, it wasn't even a Ignite, it was a red buff, as there's Beishang with the needlework trying to make something work for him and his team. He will take up first blood. Not quite sure why the observers decided to go topside there for a second, but it is WE who end up getting the first advantage off of RNG trying to get a play.
And they're going to turn it into more objectives, going right into the enemy jungle, but Rift Herald coming up, they're going to turn onto this one. And RNG just didn't have the damage to take down Shanks. He's able to flash away, proccing the phase rush as well, finds the lockdown, and then WE are the ones who have the turn. So WE the ones finding a very nice foothold in this last game of the series against WE and RNG. And you were the one who brought up the fact that taking a win against a team you could potentially play in playoffs so soon before that could happen does feel like it can do a lot for morale going forward. So, you know, WE just a small advantage for their side, but a very nice one.
Yes, very small, but very nice. They were able to pick themselves up that. You can even see the QSS. The tax has been paid for the Malzahar now, and I feel like, it was just a little bit too much. You're flashing in, everyone's using everything to try and just get on top of Ryze, and I don't feel like Malzahar is someone, in my head anyway, that has that kind of burst to instantly kill off someone if he's not dead before the ultimate runs out.
I mean, Penguin, you're absolutely right, because, yeah, Malzahar doesn't really have any burst, especially early on in the game, right? It's about that consistent damage over time that you're able to put out. We're going to get a really cool angle and see how this panned out. They do get the W down, ease in. Shanks with the flash, does get the lockdown onto the Xin Zhao and able to run away. Then Beishang following up with the needlework. Almost able to get away, but full stacks on his snip. Able to go in, get the Q down, and they secure the kill. So for WE, Gwen already getting off to a good start. Shanks has been able to keep up a pretty good advantage. Again, this is not a matchup we've really seen so far. This split, not a matchup we've seen in a long time, but you do quickly get to a point as a Malzahar where you can just drop your skills on the wave and then just ignore the Ryze. But Shanks so far doing a nice job at staying ahead.
Keeping himself ahead. We'll need to keep doing that as Missing is just taking so much punishment here. Elk is going to find himself going back to base, I imagine, as he's running out of mana. This is just going to be, again, RNG just keeping constant pressure in this bot side, and there's not really a lot that Beishang as a jungler can do. Gwen not really great at setting up things, is more, as you saw in that last little play, more a tone to just capitalizing on overextensions or someone else setting them up. They are very much not set up to give you the advantage themselves.
Right, you're just another damage piece, especially when you're picked into the jungle role. You need laners to set you up, or you need to come in off counter ganks like we did see in that last play. But RNG going to be able to pick up the spot lane turret. You can see WE already making a response on the minimap, making their way up to punish Xiaohu. Xiaohu might have Shroud available, but doesn't have a flash, remember.
No flash for him. They haven't started the aggro just yet. They will drop down the Rift Heralds. That will take up the first little bit. As we can see there, the Viego just kiting in out. The Shroud will drop in 2, 1. There it is. The QSS, though, is enough to keep the Shanks away and keep him nice and push forward. Not going to be able to use the perfect execution perfectly, and that is going to be the top lane turret going down very, very shortly in response to the bot.
And Xiaohu, I guess, is either trying to not fall too far behind in terms of like EXP on the wave, but you should expect that play to be coming out from WE. Your jungle showing on bot side, taking away the bottom lane turret. W, of course, are going to make the responses. Okay, it's only missing here. I got a bit scared because I was looking at the minimap at the time, like, okay, if Braum's here, other people must be here. Wei, what are you doing? Wei is able to secure that dragon, though. So now 2 dragons for RNG. They're the ones who are going to be able to threaten Soul pretty soon. Sitting on 2 drakes, only 11 minutes into the game. They're not too far behind in gold, so I don't feel like things are dead in the water for RNG, but it still does feel like WE have been dictating the pace of the game a little bit more than RNG have.
A little bit, but I will say for the positives of RNG, they are, TP very, very deep there, Dead. There's nowhere you can go now off of this one here. You can see Breed getting caught up with the Chain of Corruption, but they are going to commit themselves their own TP. So here's Cryin, and they're actually turning this one around a little bit. They are going to be able to keep Beishang locked and loaded into the one spot. There's a piercing arrow onto one. The Hail of Blades is not quite enough to get him, or Hail of Arrows, excuse me. And that just gives a lot of time to Xiaohu on this bot side to start picking up some free farm. And RNG, they don't lose anybody. I thought for sure the bot lane was dead.
I think it also goes to the amount of the lack. There we go. There's the word. The lack of lockdown on the side of WE. Yeah, the lack of lockdown on the side of WE, right? Not able to keep anyone in place, start kiting it back. Cryin TP's in, and in the first play, I don't think Cryin used any abilities before he ulted, so that also was a big reason, the lack of damage. But this time was able to, I think, get that E off before starting the ultimate, so able to get a good deal of damage down onto the side of WE. They dissuade the engage coming out, and they're able to back off. Like you said, RNG also holding pressure in the bottom side of the map, allowing for Xiao to get a bit more CS that he was lacking because of the amount of pressure that WE did have in the laning phase, so going to be back to ping-ponging waves. No more Rift Herald up for either side. Second Rift Herald still not up towards spawning, and we're not close to a dragon, but Wei wants to punish Shanks, but Shanks should be fine.
Oh, it still gets the Realm Warp out of him, so Shanks will not be able to use that cooldown for about a minute and a half, so gives you a little bit of an air of safety, if you will, as we now see Beishang finding himself on top of a pink ward, freshly placed, and yummy, yummy, yummy. Always like comes fresh out of the oven there as you get him off of the cooldowns, so now we'll see if they want to try and make something work. They do not go for the stun, they're actually just going straight up for plates right now. They're ignoring Xiaohu for the time being and saying, right, we'll just get a plate, we know that's what we can get from here, we know we can't dive you.
RNG's 3-man core hovering towards the bottom half of the map. Don't want to overcommit and potentially give over more kills than they would net for being able to pick up Xiaohu. And now we're going to be getting into this place of side pressure, right? Where as WE, you definitely have two soul laners that are more comfortable in side lanes with the fact that RNG have malzahar. As Cryin, you can really only aggressively push past river if Wei is hovering with you, and I feel like you don't typically be doing that if you're looking to set up a pick on the enemy soul lane, so not going to do that, just going to answer the wave that was already pushed out, going to take blue buff. But now with the Rift Herald up, we know what we're fighting for. Breathe already making his way over, so RNG going to get control of the bottom wave and potentially make WE miss out on something, but he does have teleport up.
And there is a pink ward the bottom lane, if they want to try and go for something there, but no teleports available for WE. You can see Xiaohu, he's fine to keep pushing this. RNG have not been pressured just yet. They will use the grand entrance to get Ming out, and I think right now RNG are just happy to give this one up, give time to Xiaohu, let him scale back up into this game, try and get him up to his Rift Maker as quick as possible, because realistically this Rift Herald is not really going to do a hell of a lot. There's some pings onto the mid lane turret, but it's still very, very healthy for RNG. Not really a lot you can do here with this Rift Herald as of right now for WE.
No, for WE, they could look to just play around it with Breathe like they were doing earlier of sending Beishang down here, and then you could either try to set up a dive with the help of a Rift Herald or even just drop that outright and use tempo to then move towards mid and then set up a play on mid turret. So definitely a lot of options available in WE's arsenal. We are starting to see some key mythics come out as Cryin just picking up that Leandri's Anguish, so he's now going to be at a point of power with, you know, that damage over time, the burn coming out, really being able to get more done in these fights. So for RNG, we're going to be looking at this next dragon. This one feels massive if you can force WE in a situation where they feel pressure because you are on soul point. RNG are the ones with vision control. I'd love to see Cryin start making his way down now. Doesn't have a TP, and I feel like Cryin is one of the big tools that if someone from WE face checks, he's the one that locks him down to secure a kill. Ooh.
Oh, Elk, he has to use his flash, or not his flash, excuse me, his arcane shift on his heal. Turn back onto Beishang. There's the quickness going to be used. It's going to be the Glacial Fisher coming out. The TP going to be in. That's going to be Viego and the Akali coming in. Beishang, though, is dead and buried. That's the jungler there for WE, and Viego arrives and dies. And that's the perfect execution to put Xiaohu right onto the back line. That is RNG getting control of this Dragon Pit. Nothing WE can do, and they're going to put themselves on the soul point.
And they are going to put so much pressure on the side of Team WE, picking this one up, so more damage should come out from them. Well, you know, individual Infernal Souls don't really mean anything. That's not the point, Penguin. They're on soul point, and yeah, really, really nice play coming out from RNG in that one. This was a bit of a more creative draft, a bit of a wonkier draft coming out from them. You know, some of us were skeptical. We do see Xiaohu actually going towards the Rocket Belt build, so
yeah,
going to try and get closer onto getting on targets in the backline, but we're going to go straight into the replay of what happens. Ming going for the engage. Breathe and Xiaohu start channeling TP at the same time, but they're able to get Beishang down before anyone from WE is really able to join. And then by the time TPs do come out, you do see that Breathe just left in a really awkward spot with Elk not really able to join up, only putting Mystic Shots out over the wall.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that, is that you can see Shanks and Elk were just so afraid to walk forward because Shanks doesn't have a mythic right now. That 1,300 gold of tax that he had to pay for that QSS is only just putting him further and further behind. And yes, it is still good active. It is still very good to keep you in the game, and it gives less targets to the Malzahar, but it does mean that he's only getting his Everfrost in now. We can see Xiaohu going to be caught a little bit underneath the turret. There's the Rift Heralds. They're going to put in a little bit more damage. Shouldn't be able to take the turret just yet, as this 3-man squad from WE is answered by the 3-man squad of RNG. However, I do think that they're going to have to just give it up straight away anyway, because there's just no way they can get the rotations in on time. They don't want to have to answer for a teleport, so they're just going to back away.
Also, with the fact that they didn't see Ryze up in top lane, they knew that he was potentially down waiting in the wings. Still, though, with the amount of time RNG were able to buy, and the fact that they weren't able to force on mid-wave means that WE can't go for that typical transition of like, okay, use Rift Herald down bot, gain tempo with that, send your other soul laner to mid straight away, and then just start looking to get some pressure down onto that tower. So RNG were at least able to prevent that play from coming out, and now we're going to see RNG continue to put up pressure in mid with the amount of threat that Gala does have over Elk right now, and even Ming being here as compared to Missing, who was bot, so Missing going for a reset before he's coming back to lane.
Yeah, and actually just looking at Elk's build, went with the Essence Reaver first, so not even close to his Mythic right now. Probably going for the newer builds as such. You go Essence Reaver, then you finish your Mana Mune, and you pick up a Dustbringer sometime, later as such. Does mean that when you pick up that first Mana Mune into the Eclipse here for the Varus, Gala is in such a strong position to be able to burst people down. It's, of course, 25 or so CS up on his counterpart, and this is where the game gets a little bit funky, because now we got ourselves an Infernal Soul in 2.5 minutes. People are very close in terms of their gold, and first items are being picked up. Those second items could be crucial for either team if they want to try and come out with a win.
You expect both teams to even just start playing for that for the next 2 minutes, right? Because you're gonna hit it. You're hitting an objective that you can't go for a cross map play for. You're both gonna be looking to take this one right away. So for RNG especially, you don't want to add any volatility into the game before that point. There's just no reason to. So just farm up, keep catching waves. We're just gonna see Wei keep cycling through his jungle. Get resets out is RNG's gonna be able to pick up this turret is quite nice for them. So big. Gold about equalized, not too far up, and a minute and a half away, you'd want to start seeing resets coming out soon and seeing who can get on first. Last time around, we were talking about how it would be nice to see Cryin being able to get there earlier. He does have Unsealed Spellbook, so this time around does have the teleport. Last time did have the heal when he was when we were around that time, and WE instead going to be getting vision down towards the top half of the map with Shanks' push.
And right now, I'm actually curious to see what's Wei going back. What does he pick up? Yep, that's what I thought he was going for. The Wit's End picked up here, so he knows that he's going to be jumping straight first, head on into this Ryze and Gwen. He's going to be taking a lot of damage, but also wants to be able to try and put down a little bit of kill pressure onto them as well. You can see Beishang being gifted over there a little bit of a ward to get a little bit more money as he tries to maybe get his Morellos finished up before this dragon fight. But 50 seconds before this one starts, and I don't know. I think this is it. I think this is whatever items you have is the items you're going into this fight with.
WE left side lanes a little bit early, allowed for Cryin to get an extra push up in top side. My guess is it's because that they know they can't contest over mid-wave. They need to get here a bit earlier to try to force their way into river. Still not able to do that. RNG chunking them out before, and now Cryin utilizing the TP to get here first. So RNG have members here. Breathing to start making his way down. I feel like the big members we're keeping our eye on is Ming, because we already saw what Ming was able to do in that last exchange, and if Xiaohu's able to find an angle onto anyone in the backline.
All right, close to look before this fight comes out. 2 stopwatches available, 1 on Cryin, 1 on Missing. There are flashes available for everyone except for the Akali and, of course, the Beishang on Gwen, because they did not take it. I love this from Cryin. He's swapped his spellbook to an Exhaust. Dragon has been started. Wei is there in the pit. Does he look for the steal? He goes in. He's trying to look for it there. It resets a little bit, but no, it is Gwen who takes it. But now the fight can really begin. RNG trying to get on top of everybody. Xiaohu goes in with a perfect execution. Takes down the Gwen, and now WE are on the wrong side of this fight. The flash forward. Oh, Ming not quite able to get it. They get 3 people out. They will lose breathe off of this play, but WE importantly take the dragon.
Yeah, and oh, maybe getting Ming, but no, actually not in the end. Still, RNG going to be the team to pick up some kills, but you're right. I think RNG definitely would have preferred the dragon in that situation. They do start to open up a little bit more of a gold lead, so hopefully that can turn into some tangible items going into the next dragon fight, and then maybe you can take it there, but a little bit hurt for the side of RNG. I want to pay more attention to the fight as I assume Beishang does just get the outsmite. Ming actually does get the taunt off, but
Wei's just a little too early.
Yeah, and there we're going to see Xiaohu getting right into the backline. Ming with a nice knockup to enable all of that coming through. And then the chase continues. Shanks doing such a nice job of getting everyone out. That was so close and could have been so bad for the side of WE. But this, ooh, this will be close.
This is going to be pretty bad as well. We're going to see the ult pop down. Shanks pop down the exhaust on top of him as well. But the rest of WE are here. You can see the needlework doing work as it takes down Rakan. But 2 for 1. We're getting resets here for Breathe. He gets silenced though, and nowhere to go for him. So that's going to be a nice little move here for RNG. They pick up 3, only lose 2, and they can continue the push in top side.
RNG are still just barely edging them out, though. No massive advantages to come through. Elk needs to be careful.
Oh, they land the shuriken flip, and that is where most of that damage is now front-loaded. As we can see, the piercing arrow maybe just going to go onto Elk, and yep, straight through his heart, and you're to blame. As RNG pick themselves up a bit more gold, and they're starting to pick up the pace a little bit. We had a very, very tempered early game. No one really going too crazy. A couple of skirmishes here and there, but now we're seeing RNG back to back to back, looking for skirmishes after picking up their second items on their AP carries.
And we're going to get to see a replay here. Wei making his way over. See how this one goes. As, yeah.
Where'd that minion
Cryin
come
ulting.
from? Where did that minion come from?
I'm not sure, but Cryin using his malzahar ult on the Ryze that has QSS. We're going to see Breathe able to find a reset off of a lot of the damage able to come down, which is going to lead into the second Heartbreaker for another kill. But then, like you said, the silence comes through, the damage comes through from the other members of RNG, and man, we just got more action, Penguin!
I told you, they're picking up the pace, they're looking for the kills, and Xiaohu finds Elk. Nicely done there by the side of RNG. Good kill there, and that might open themselves up for a Baron, because they can take this one pretty quickly. They got a malzahar, they've got a Varus, and they've got a Xin Zhao. This goes down very fast.
Let's see if RNG go for it. This might be one of your only chances. You can potentially wait for the dragon, but no, they are just going to go straight for this one. Xiaohu's only half HP though, so they need to be careful, and he doesn't have any way of going for a back right now if they're going to go for this, but RNG are burning this down so quickly.
They're getting it down so fast. They're going to be able to bring it down to 3,000 HP, but a chain of corruption down onto multiple members on the side of WE means they cannot go anywhere. The Crescent Guard separates them out, and you can see now it's all onto this Viego, but it's not enough. He's not going to be able to keep it going. They only lose Ming. They gain themselves 3 more kills, and it's Elk with the ultimate, maybe trying to catch out Cryin. Ooh, it was close. Not quite able to kill him, but Cryin should be able to get himself out and back onto the Rift. Nicely done here by RNG. Missing, you need to leave. Sir, you need to leave. He's going to get sniped. Oh, so close. Not quite able to land it, but they do not have smite. Now they do. Missing in a little bit of trouble. Gets caught out by Xiaohu, who rings around the Rosie. Cryin now looking to see if he can maybe find Elk off of this with the Ryze's Crystal Scepter, but no ultimate available to the Malzahar means they have to just back themselves away. But Baron goes over to RNG, and now they can reset, get themselves back on the map for the minute's time for that Dragon Soul.
And now they will be able to guarantee themselves prio, right? They have Baron, they have pushing lanes, they'll be able to get vision down first, make it very hard for the side of WE to walk in. And after WE stealing away that soul, we were having question marks, but we're going to get to see how this all begins. Xiaohu being the one to start this off onto a pick on Elk.
Cool.
Huh. Well, that was okay. I
won't lie. I couldn't really tell what was going on with the angles.
I didn't really know where this was going to lead. We see here, though, I think critically Cryin getting the malzahar ult onto Beishang. You know, get rid of that OP Gwen, leaves Viego here to fend for himself. And once again, RNG, I think a really nice target selection in these fights to be able to take down the key members of WE one by one. And now we are setting up for that dragon that you were talking about. 3 seconds till that one. And WE have given it up. WE aren't even going to contest. You look at where Breathe is on the map. He's pushing in topside. And it seems like WE maybe starting to accept their fates a little bit, knowing that they can't contest RNG in a full-on 5v5 right now.
Yeah, and again, the only person with a QSS right now on the side of WE is Shanks. The first item he picked up. He went back, paid his tax, and went back off, so he's fine. But at the same time, anyone else gets caught out. They're so squishy if they're not able to get the resets off. And now with 2 cannon minions, Bert and Ernie in this bot side helping out RNG, pushing down this tower. Chain of Corruption will swing wide, but oh my god, these piercing arrows are doing so much. And that is the base cracked open from WE. Even see Viego finally getting the reset off. Now it's a 5v4, but there's a teleport for Xiaohu, so he can join at any time.
It is rough playing against a Varus that is this far ahead when you don't have any real hard engage, right? So they just have to take the punishment coming out from Gala, and maybe Breathe can try and find an angle. Maybe Beishang can get in the background with the help of Shanks, but still no real lockdown. And RNG just going to keep up this pressure, even now starting to sink in that top wave with Xiaohu pushing that in. RNG should be able to guarantee this mid lane turret quite easily as the punishment just keeps coming out. For WE, they're going to have to all in one side of the map. It looks like they're already making their way up towards top.
Yeah, they're going to try and all in onto Xiaohu, but he gets the Stealth Shuriken flip. He's going to have the Proto Belt. And it's just nothing you can do. Now you've left your entire base open. That's going to be another inhibitor going down, and WE are falling apart, Lyric. They don't know what to do.
Yeah, RNG, they got ahead, and they've just restricted the options so much from WE. They're playing out with an advantage so well. TP comes in. WE has to make a stand.
They got to make a stand, but it's going to be without their support or without their mid laner. Shanks almost goes down. They almost take him off of that one, but he'll be traded back in favor of the jungler. They take down Ezreal. They take down the Nexus turret, and RNG will continue their winning streak to 9-0 going into their final game this weekend.
The RNG hype train gets to continue, picking up this win over WE. Showing solid macro. Big apologies to Shanks. Cryin, I'm sorry. As, you know, the TF pick opened up questions like, what's going on? But brings out the Malzahar. They make it work. And when RNG get a lead, this team is just so oppressive. And one last time, this might not have been like the most bloody, chaotic, LPL-esque series, but this was close. This was one that I'm excited to see again if we do get the opportunity of this in playoffs, because, like, man, these two teams were neck and neck for a lot of this. For RNG, I mean, good things keep going forward. For WE, I don't think this spells too much negativity in towards of what you are able to do going forward. So, very curious to see both teams going forward and what they can do in playoffs, and now RNG getting slightly closer to being able to lock in that top 4 spot.
Yeah, and again, WE can hold their heads up high. They played very, very well. Like you said, so excited to see what these teams can do in a best of 5. Do they change it up a little bit? Do they just try to maybe ban out the Varus? That seemed like a comfort pit. There's so many different things that can come into it, of course, into a game 4 and beyond. But RNG will continue their win streak, and not only that, they will take off WE's win streak from 6 wins in a row. They now go to a loss. WE a little bit, I'd say you're going to be a little bit disappointed about that, but RNG are just... it's just so clean right now.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, right? When RNG get ahead, RNG are scary. They just know how to play the map so well. They know how to pull you around the rift and just pick you apart piece by piece. I feel like feels like the right way of saying it. Gala's damage this time just didn't allow for the members of WE to do something. When you don't have the hard engage available to you this time around, when you start falling behind, you just have no way of getting on top of that Varus. And we saw that in spades. I also think Ming, low-key MVP in my book. I wouldn't be surprised if Gala is the one who picks it up, but I think both of them, extraordinary performances. Xiaohu, I think, played well for the amount he got set behind, but still, like, he did get set quite far behind, so... definitely different members of RNG doing different things. I still feel like we see Cryin and Wei being more of like those supportive elements to where Xiaohu and Ming kind of being your stars. Then you have games like this coming out from Gala where Gala reminds you, hey, at any time Gala can step up to be that other big carrying big name on this roster.
And honestly, looking back to RNG, 18-2 in their last 20 games. That is absurd amount. They literally played enough of an LEC split in their and then lost 2 games. Like, it's just such an incredible run for them right now. And the way they're winning, like you said, yes, Xiaohu got put behind. That was obviously a conscious effort from Team WE, but Gala and Cryin and hell, even Ming as well, all stepping up. And this is exactly what we saw from RNG last split, where, yes, a little shaky at the start. You had questions over Cryin and Gala, and maybe you were like, oh, I don't know if they can win this again. But when it becomes... when push comes to shove and when everything is needed for this team, they just come together. And honestly, I do think Cryin had a great series. Maybe game 1 was a little bit rusty on the Orianna, didn't quite maybe play the matchup against the Ryze as well, but played 3 different champions into the Ryze, and honestly just looked like it went from strength to strength to strength with it.
I think we've seen in the series that his laning is still a little bit underwhelming for sure. Even in game 3, right, was like struggling a little bit early on. But when it comes to like influencing the map and playing with the team, he just fits the other members of RNG so well. He knows what he needs to do for the team to get ahead. And it seems like, you know, he like falls in line. He's another soldier in like that RNG army. So it works. It works. And if it works, it feels like there's really nothing to question. So for Cryin, good things to come. I think we're still going to look at if he's able to bring more exciting picks like this. We talked about how Ming potentially could be an MVP, but we knew it was going to be Penguin. Who is it?
Yeah, it's going to be Gala. Gala picking himself up the MVP for this game. Honestly, on this Varus, it's exactly like I said. It's similar to Kai'Sa in Spring. He's found a pick. He's very comfortable on it. And because there's just so much other things you have to be wary of, you kind of just have to let it go through the cracks. And RNG will always try and get it early on.
Of course, right? Gala just keeps finding these picks that he's able to deliver these S-tier performances on, coming out this time around incredibly strong, able to be that big artillery piece that RNG play around and can rely on. And yeah, RNG, I don't know. I just don't know where the streak ends, where the hype train ends.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all just anticipating seeing them against FPX. I feel like it's the big one, right? We want to see how this team stacks up against Fun plus Phoenix, and hopefully we get the chance to do that. So, you know, it would be disappointing if we didn't, Penguin. That's all I'm saying.
It would be a little bit disappointing. I will say, if my maths is correct, I do believe this win does guarantee RNG a top 4 finish in the split. I am just doing the maths very, very quickly in my head. That is not 100% confirmed, but I'm pretty sure with the people who can actually catch them, the only person who could catch them onto game scores would be